presented here for your consideration the notion that the ordinary people surrounding you every day, on the street, the bus, at the post office, or the trendy evening venue, are, in fact, far from ordinary. That these men, women, and others form their own splinter groups behind closed doors, and that these micro-societies engage in activities often more obscure than fiction. Welcome to the Sub-Subculture.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Sub-Subculture Podcast. I'm your host and former piece of Icelandic driftwood, Andrew.
And I'm Joe, enjoyer of cunning stunts.
Right.
It's funny because if you
swap the letters, it says something else.
It says something else, yeah. I think that's
good.
It's very clever.
I'm glad you think so.
Been working on that.
I hope you've been working on something else this week, like the topic of this episode.
I'll be honest, 90% of my time was based on that intro.
Okay,
the other 10% I've done research on today's topic.
It's all downhill from here, listeners. So what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about the phenomenon of Disney adults.
Disney adults. Okay.
At what point does preserving wonder become refusing adulthood? And why does Disney make that boundary more disturbing than other fandoms?
See, I would have gone with it's another clickbaity topic for people to become polarized and outraged with for opposing reasons on the internet. Like, that's all I could find, really.
Which we certainly wouldn't just tack ourselves onto for the sake of algorithmic clout. Definitely not.
But this isn't brand new. This has been floating around in the internetosphere for a while. People have been outraged and in favor of it for a while. So we're not jumping too early on the bandwagon. This is a well-established bandwagon, well on its way.
Well on its way, yeah. We're beating a dead horse here. But nonetheless, we need to find out what drives these people, what this is really about. Is there a dark side, etc.?
And one of my key questions is, why do people hate it so much?
Yeah, why do I hate it so much?
Okay, so this is something that I had no idea about before it was on the topic list. So what were your preconceptions before I give you mine? Oi.
My preconceptions, I think my first real idea that Disney adults were a thing was back in my days on Tinder, probably 8 years ago. I would occasionally come across a woman's profile where every single picture would be her in a costume, like a Disney princess costume, or at Disneyland, but there'd be some sort of Disney involved in every single picture. And I remember thinking at the time, this is bizarre. You've chosen to show the world not just one photo that, hey, I like Disney, but your entire profile is revolving around Disney for some reason. And your little blurb explains, as if it needed any explanation, that you're a big Disney fan. Are you? I hadn't got that. And it creeped me out, actually, quite a lot. There's something, these are like 25, 26-year-old women, and there was something really unsettling to me about presenting themselves in a childlike way. Little bows on and little Minnie Mouse outfits and things like that. No, it just makes something in me go, that's not right.
It triggered your gag reflex remotely.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, it was very difficult to jerk off to those pictures. I had to really dig deep on that one.
But you powered through anyway.
Yeah, I'm a professional. But yeah, basically the conclusion I drew from that is, I mean, this is going to sound extreme. It's an extreme opinion. But the conclusion I sort of drew was, I think these people probably have either a developmental disorder or a personality disorder. There's something like obviously significantly wrong with this person. And yeah, that was my preconception of Disney adults. It didn't really go much further than that. Okay.
So did you grow up watching Disney movies when you were younger?
No, interestingly. My mum, I'm outside the ecosystem. My mother had banned Disney from the house because, in her view, they took grim double M fairy tales and sanitized them and made them happy clappy and took away all of the meaning and basically sugarcoated them for kids. And like, there's some truth to that, but also having viewed Disney films later, Disney films often have significant amounts of tragedy, negative emotions in them. It's part of what makes them great. But no, I didn't really see Disney as a child. It was probably, I think I was 20 the first time I saw The Lion King, maybe 21.
Okay. This explains a lot as to why you're dead inside.
It's not the only reason.
I think that may in fact be significant, though. If you didn't come into contact with it, then you really don't have any nostalgic connection to it, which is a big part of this. But before we get fully down that rabbit hole, I had no idea this was a thing. As per last episode ending, little spoilers, I was like, oh God, this is going to be something horrifically sexual, isn't it? But going into it, I thought, I mean, maybe it's just wholesome stuff. It is Disney, right? Disney's fairly wholesome.
Is it?
Like Disney as a kid. I was raised with the movies around, not obsessively, but if we noticed, like when we were probably 2 years later than when it came out, but there was a new VHS, like, okay, maybe that's on the purchase list for our several child household this year. And we would see them and stuff. I think we went to the cinema once or twice to see some of them, but it wasn't like we were a household obsessed with it. But I'm aware of them and watched them at the intended right age to see innocent childhood films. So yeah, no clue going into it what it was about. But then as soon as you see one of the videos, as you say, it's adults dressing up and having a borderline unhealthy obsession with, well, some of it is definitely an unhealthy obsession with Disney characters, Disney movies, Disney franchises.
So you would say that you have a nostalgic fondness for Disney then?
Yes, although not to a fandom level, as in I think fondly of the films that I saw when I was younger, but I wouldn't go to bat for them. I wouldn't be standing up for Walt Disney when people are going like, he was a Nazi and stuff like that. Yeah, I like Disney. I'm probably borderline Disney adult, I guess.
This is a shocking revelation.
Hot take.
This is outrageous. I can never tell which things you're going to be wildly misanthropic about and which things you're actually going to kind of be into. Like in the fairies episode, you said maybe you'd be into doing the fairy thing. Did not see that coming. I still can't get over that. I lie awake at night sometimes thinking, really?
I wish you didn't have your penis in your hand when you were thinking about me at night, but okay. I don't think I quite said that, but that's beside the point. I think I said I understood it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. I went to Disneyland last year when I was 37.
Disneyland? Which one's that one?
Oh, no, sorry, Disney World. I went to a Disney World theme park in Florida last year.
Oh, that's the big one.
Mm-hmm.
That's the combined site is the size of San Francisco.
Well, there's 4 separate parks plus like 4 water parks, something like that, and then a boardwalk and all that. There's there's a lot of stuff there.
There's waterboarding.
Yeah, done by me to other people that don't want to go, like your fucking self.
You must have hated everyone there, right?
That could be walking down the high street, buddy.
Oh yeah, you've got enough hate for all.
It was crowded and hot. We went in fucking August as well. But yeah, I took my little brother to Disney last year.
And how old is the wee chap now?
He's in his late 20s. So yeah, but it was a almost retreading of family nostalgia because we would have gone on holiday there when we were significantly younger, the correct age to go to these things. So going back and doing one theme park, not going for Disney, but going to see just some of the other stuff that was around, it was more like memories of family holidays rather than let's go and pay homage to the mouse.
Pay your tithes to Lord Mickey.
Which there's whole videos of people saying how it's got a lot of the same symbolism and practices as a religion, but I think that's way deeper than I want to go.
Interesting. So what would you say your main motivations for going to Disneyland as an adult were? Primarily nostalgia?
It was nostalgia. I think what's nice about the parks is there's a lot of set dressing outside of the rides that is just quite immersive and impressive in a sort of, holy shit, that thing's really big and looks like that thing from the film kind of way. So the fact that you're almost in the set of a film is quite interesting as you move through different areas of it.
And the lengths they've gone to recreate the illusion or create the illusion is itself quite wonderful.
It was part of the appeal to see, yeah. We knew it was going to be absolutely mobbed and we weren't going to be paying extra for like queue jumping tickets and all the stuff that goes with the hyper-capitalism around it. And being also a Star Wars fan, we went to the one park that had a Star Wars section. So when you see a life-size Millennium Falcon and stand underneath it and stuff like that, that's quite cool as well. It feels like
that's pretty cool.
You're on a film set in that sense as well. So there's a lot of little things that you can enjoy without spending 60 minutes with your face pressed into a stranger's armpit.
Yeah, you can go on the London Tube if you want to do that.
Yeah, but I don't get to see a stormtrooper there.
Not yet. Give it another 10 years.
Yeah, but it'll be the 1930s version of Stormtrooper. Fun fact, that's what the Nazis called some of their officers.
Hooray! I can't wait for techno-fascism to come.
Anyway, we should probably drop a proper definition of a Disney adult.
It's time. It's high time for a definition.
Yep, okay.
What do you got?
I took mine from someone called AJ Wolf, who is definitely not an unbiased third party. She's written a book on the topic of Disney adults, but she also runs a YouTube blog called Disney Food Blog.
Mm-hmm.
And to promote her book coming
Disney food blog.
To promote her book coming out, Disney even ran promotions at various bars across the park. So she's in the pocket of these guys.
She's a cat's paw of Mickey Mouse.
She did say that
Industry shill.
From her research and interviewing multiple Disney adults,
i.e. brand deals,
i.e. herself, she said a Disney adult is a grown person who deeply loves and follows the Walt Disney Company, often focused on theme parks, character collections, and nostalgic media. While the subculture provides strong community and joyful escape, that's the questionable part, it frequently draws public debate and internet criticism regarding consumer habits and intense nostalgia.
It's interesting there that she referred to loving the company.
Actually, that's a big fat lie. That's not from her at all. That was a different definition. Hers...
Cool. Well, we'll throw that out then.
Much more sanitized. Yeah.
Where'd that come from?
The internet.
Someone's arse.
My bum. No, hers was people who are intentional about interfacing with Disney products and experiences. There we go. That's what the company shield said.
How human sounding.
Beep bop boop. I wish to interface with you.
Yeah, people don't talk like that. The definition I have is a Disney adult is an adult whose identity, leisure time, and discretionary spending are unusually centered around Disney's characters, stories, merchandise, and theme parks. That old identity word popping up again.
This actually has a lot of similarities to the football fan culture that we talked about last time, surprisingly. This search for a community, this packaging or prepackaged identity that comes with latching onto the corporate entity of Disney and its various
suckling
tentacles.
Upon the corporate teat of the mouse. Of Minnie Mouse, I guess.
Yes. There was also an article on Inside Hooks, which described it as a polarizing monkeyer for Disney-loving / childless adults who frequent the park and buy loads of merch and collectibles, go on the cruises, binge the movies, and so on. They did see it as escapism rooted in joy and nostalgia, but when you say that some people exclusively holiday at Disney resorts, go there multiple times a year, that's not cheap. And some even use Disney dating apps. That's where the red flags come in for me.
Well, I'm in favour of this because they can
get them off Tinder.
I don't want to see that. You go find some other guy. Although, interestingly, the Disney adult demographic that self-identifies as Disney adults is around 80% female. So that dating app, if you're a Disney man, you could potentially clean up.
Or if you want to be a kind of anthropomorphized wolf in sheep's clothing, you could probably do quite well on there statistically.
And I don't know the exact percentage, but there's definitely a higher than general population gay men of the men. So straight dudes not really doing this as much. You're a bit of an anomaly.
I think that even the article said it inspires derision and eye rolling at the least, and judgment from corners of the internet and elsewhere. But some of this might be rooted in the demographic. So there might be undertones of misogyny and homophobia there because the demographic does tend to skew female and gay.
That's interesting. I came across that question. My take is I don't think the criticism has anything to do with gender or orientation. I think that's entirely coincidental. I think this is focused on adults who are not being adults who are trying to remain children, I think is where the revulsion centers around it. And whoever is doing that, if they happen to be female or gay, then so be it. It doesn't make them immune from the original criticism.
So you think it's got a definite ick factor, grossness scale?
I find it gross, definitely. But I've been trying to discover whether I think any part of it is morally wrong, or if there is a true dark side to it, or if it's just a form of nostalgia that I find difficult to understand. But it definitely icks me out.
So about an hour into my research at this point, after finding this article on this book that the woman's written, and I only seeing this basic definition and then mostly sources that are based on a lot of prejudices, I'm still not really seeing it as a bad thing. I mean, it's adult escapism, and the headlines that will get people obsessed over this culture is like the clickbaity ones with just the influencer type thumbnails of someone looking shocked and someone doing something gross, and then a huge number like 27,000 spent in a single day of like some gross fat idiot with mouse ears on. But the problem is that if that's how people are getting identified as Disney adults, it makes people who only have a passing interest or a nostalgic fondness for Disney and would say, yeah, no, I like Disney. It's okay. I've got nothing against it. It lumps you in with a big group of, let's be honest, absolute fucking morons.
I knew the hatred would come out of you.
Because
it'd flow through you.
There's liking something and there's having an obsession with it and structuring your personality around it and spending exorbitant amounts of money which you don't have on something as baseless as this. If you boil it all down, it's characters from animated film franchises at its bottom level. There's no good reason to sink thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into that.
We've said this before about when a hobby becomes someone's identity. And sure, it's fine to enjoy hobbies and spend money on them. But if you're pouring significant resources, either in time or money or other things, into something that has limited real-world returns, you should probably examine it critically whether that's the best use of your limited resources.
And that's not to say that we think that no one should have any joy and shouldn't have any kind of fun or quirky hobbies, and we're completely utilitarian about things and say, if something doesn't have a practical value, it's pointless. Not the case at all, because I'm just staring at the top of my monitor and I've got a bunch of stupid figures from DC Comics that came out of Kinder Eggs, or there's a fucking Lego Darth Vader over in the corner there that was a Christmas gift, and I know you've got some similar bits and bobs hanging around, right?
Oh, definitely. I bought a Spectrum Pursuit vehicle for myself a couple of months ago because that was a childhood toy from Captain Scarlet that I always wanted and I never got. My parents refused to buy it for me because they were trying to teach me a lesson about money. I think I was like probably about 5 or 6 and I had 20p a week pocket money. I remember this Spectrum Pursuit vehicle cost £8.60 for this toy. It's about 6 inches long. £8.60.
That's how much it cost you now, or how much it cost back then?
Back then. And so I did the calculation and I needed to save up for something like 7 months. 7 months to get this thing. And I made it about 4, maybe 5 months, more than halfway to getting this thing. And eventually I just decided it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Because if I bought a single candy bar, chocolate bar that week, it would have wiped out my pocket money for the week.
That would have set you back a month.
Yeah. So I cut my expenses to absolute zero to try and get this thing, and in the end just gave it up. And any normal parents would have probably not done this in the first place and would have maybe just got it for Christmas, or God forbid, just got it on a random day, because how horrible it would be for your child to occasionally get something nice for no reason. But anyway, I definitely felt later as an adult that, okay, I'm going to finally bloody well buy this thing, because I never got it at the time and it felt like such a pointless thing to deny a child. And so I bought it for £26 on eBay. So in inflation adjustment,
fucking inflation,
it's actually about the same cost as it always was. And have I played with it? No. Did I get a nice nostalgic sense of completeness and healing a childhood wound? Yes.
Okay, that seems like money well spent then.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Would you staple 3 zeros to the end of that to try and do it on a several times a year basis,
using all of my disposable income to do it and
more
into debt? Yeah, then it would be a problem, I think. So according to a Lending Tree survey, whoever they are, 24% of all Disney park visitors have gone into debt over a trip. Among parents, specifically 45% have, averaging around $2,000 in debt for a trip.
I didn't write down the actual statistic, but this is in keeping with what the park demographics are sitting at the moment, or have been for the last few years, especially post-COVID reopenings, in that only 30-odd% of park visitors now are kids or people with kids.
Families, yeah. And it used to be much more, didn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. So 2/3 of those visitors are adults that don't have kids with them.
And it's always been the adults that have the money, because obviously children don't have jobs and bank accounts and stuff. So it would be the children begging the parents for whatever and the parents coughing up the money. But now adults without children, they're a significant source of money now. And not just to park visitors, for merchandise. I have a friend that has a whole bunch of large Lego Star Wars models, which I guess is a Disney thing, like a Millennium Falcon that's about 2.5 feet across. It's awesome, but it costs £600.
Fuck that.
It's cool though.
I don't know. It stops being cool at some point.
I mean, that's car money.
No, it's not. It's booze money. The video I sent you, I actually want to mention it. Maybe it works here. the one from a YouTuber called Moon, who starts off, he's got a lot of his videos have the same theme in that this is the problem with the world and this is what's killing Hollywood, and they're all
thoroughly dystopian.
Yes, everything.
You can only watch about 2 or 3 before you start feeling really existentially drained.
1.5 will do it, if that. But he made a fairly bold statement at the top of his one that was the dark side of Disney adults, I think, the one I sent you.
The dark lives of Disney adults, I think.
But he goes off on quite a tangent, just using the title for clickbaits, I think. But he uses it as a platform to go into the whole...
What a dirty trick, that YouTuber.
Yeah, that one person that's doing it. None of the rest of them would do that.
That one guy. The rest of them have got integrity or something.
But he sees this as something that spreads across the whole of our society, in that our entire culture is infantilizing. And his concept of the fact that people don't have basic adult skills anymore, and that higher education systems are running adulting classes, and the fact that people are using the term adulting as well, or triggering, or all these things. Basically, people making social media posts like, oh, I just booked a dentist appointment, I guess I'm adulting. Why the fuck do you need to make that a point? Why do you need to tell people about that? It's just the most banal thing that you have to do as a person with a functioning brain.
Making things that should be considered basic skills into a notable event.
Yeah, or the fact that people just don't feel that they are able to do those things until the first time they do them, and they're, oh, look, I'm an adult now. That's something you should be perfectly capable of doing without any ceremony.
I have an extended theory about this. So, unfortunately, it's on us, the millennials and Gen Z. We're smack bang in the middle of this. I think we're the chief demographic that counts as Disney adults. But I have a theory why our generation seems to, quote, struggle growing up. And basically, it just comes down to economics. Our parents' generation, they went into good, strong job markets. They were paid good wages. Houses were much more affordable. You could buy a house on a postman's salary for like a 3-bed house for a couple of years worth of salary. Live in that. They got married in their early 20s. They'd pop kids out in their late 20s. And a lot of metrics for adulthood are kind of based on that model. Get educated, leave home, get a job, get a house, marry someone, have kids. That's the adult package. And once you've done that, that's it. You've achieved the top level of adulthood. And for our generation, that is a lot harder than it used to be. The job market's shitter. The wages are worse. Housing is way more expensive. And it's just pushing all of these milestones further down the line, like into our 30s rather than our 20s. And it's borne out by data. People are getting married 5 or 6 years later on average, having kids 5 or 6 years later on average. And I think it's simply because, or at least one of the factors is, most people don't even reach financial stability until their 30s at some point. And the idea of having kids when you're financially unstable is really bad. That's why no one wants to do it. And so I think it structurally, it's harder for us to achieve these milestones of adulthood that previously were very, very attainable. And I think maybe that factors into an overall appearance of immaturity or something like that.
I don't really agree with that. I think that inflation has made things, yes, houses are value-wise more expensive, but you could buy somewhere cheaper, and we would call it crappier, proportionally, for maybe similar to what people have always been able to do. But we've had council houses and low-income housing since our parents' generation. People have been able to go into those on low wages and live out their lives in them, or potentially have the option to buy them back at some point. I don't think that it's necessarily a socioeconomic problem. I think that people are also living longer, so there's not as much of a rush that, oh, this is what you do in your 20s, this is what you do in your 30s. That kind of stuff's moved back. And if we think about, the YouTuber Moon also mentions this, that people can't afford to buy a house now, and therefore people are living with their parents, and therefore that kind of delays this growing up process. But that's not the majority of people, I don't think.
It might not be the majority, but the demographic is shifting that way.
You could break out of that mold. But multi-generational households have been a thing forever. It's just that at some point people decided, oh, we shouldn't be living with our parents, and the mark of success is having your own place. So I don't necessarily agree that that's a phenomenon that's driven people's immaturity. I almost think that it started with a generation of people who were told that you can't be in any way harsh to your children, and that everyone's a special magic star and you can't do anything to anyone anymore. Everyone needs to be pandered to. And God forbid that we do anything that leaves anyone behind. There's no competition almost. There's
no child left behind.
I don't know. It feels like we are in a place now as a society that we constantly have to pander to the weakest and the stupidest among us. And we are not allowed to make anyone's lives challenging. Everyone needs to be given stuff. And therefore, we've got generations that are now used to handouts and everything being given to them. And therefore, they don't ever face any adversity or grow up in that sense. Because part of being an adult is overcoming challenges and learning from mistakes. But if we've got this culture of, oh, I need to do self-care, I need to have a mental health day, this is toxic for me. There's so many excuses for people not to have to do anything, and no one can do fuck all about it. If someone comes to you and says, oh, you're toxic to me, or you're, what's the fucking, the more, I don't know what the latest one is.
That was a microaggression, actually.
Yeah, exactly. This kind of thing. There's no power to tell people to just get the fuck on with something and stop being so lame. People, therefore, are also less articulate as our brains have gotten rotted by social media, so they can't even voice what's their actual problem or what's stopping them from doing something. It's just buzzwords and excuses to sit on your ass.
Which generation? I've obviously heard about participation trophies and things like that. Didn't have those when I was at school, and I'm in the peak snowflake generation. As are you, good sir.
Yeah, exactly. I think it started with our generation.
I didn't see it. I didn't see, not personally.
Neither did I. I was fucking beaten as a child as you were.
That made me the man I am today.
That's why we're functioning adults. We don't wear Disney ears.
I don't wear Disney ears.
I wear them on the inside.
You were making an interesting point before that deteriorated.
I think I got tied up in getting angry about the fact that people don't do anything anymore. But yeah, the erosion of basic skills and stuff.
How real is the participation trophy and helicopter parenting phenomenon? And how much is just whipped up by the media intent on creating a culture war?
I don't know because I don't have kids and haven't researched it, but I can tell you that when I was in the Scouts in the US, I definitely got a ribbon just for taking part in a race that I absolutely didn't win. Everyone got one.
So it's the Americans.
If you were to go and take part in a run, like an organized running event now, 10K, 5K, doesn't matter what it is, charity, not charity, everyone gets a medal at the end of that.
You get a headband in it. That is true. That is very true. You get a false sense of achievement.
Although I think that's...
Or an achievement for actually finishing something that's hard.
Yeah. I mean, that is not the perfect example because I think you have to do something to get it rather than just turn up. You have to actually cross the finish line. But yeah, we don't just give things to the best and the strongest.
So has our generation been pandered to and been spoon-fed and been shielded from all adversity? Because I feel like our generation has faced a lot of adversity and we've been given sets of values by our parents' generation that have really not helped in the world that we've gone into. And it's been an economic meat grinder. I'd say that our generation knows more about suffering than being pandered to.
It's so difficult for me because I've never been out of work properly and I've always been able to afford my house and didn't live through fucking rationing or wars.
No, it's a different kind of economic depression, I guess. And I have been out of work significantly, actually, for a year, and I couldn't get another job despite having more than a decade of experience. It's that kind of economic.
But you didn't choose to go and be a barista, did you?
I didn't choose to go and be a barista.
Yeah, you didn't take whatever job was going. You had your standards.
I did. I became a van driver.
You wanted to do that. You like cars. You like being in a van.
I liked being a van driver, yeah. It wasn't my calling, but I needed some money coming in. I even worked in a warehouse for a week of nights, and night shifts were no good. After the second one, I thought, I have to find a different job. This is not working out.
So I'm not trying to use you as a particular example, but we haven't seen a proper economic downturn where you've got 20 people queuing for that warehouse job because there's literally nothing else to feed their family from.
But we do, in a sense. Okay, unemployment rate is not catastrophic. I don't think the unemployment rate is higher than it was 10 or 20 years ago, but it's still something like 80% of people are in employment. Let me look it up. What is it?
I feel like I might have completely, as is impossible to do, derailed this sexual train. We're just trying to understand you Disney adults. Why are you like this? Look at what you've done to us. Now we're trying to deconstruct the whole of society just to figure out why you blow all your money on fucking mouse ears.
Okay, the UK unemployment rate is 4.9% currently, which I don't think is historically catastrophically worse than it has been. But it's a different kind of economic depression or economic friction, because every single job that you see has got like 1,000 applicants. The competition's more insane than it's ever been for even mediocre jobs, even shit jobs.
But this is what I mean. It's a perceived hardship by people who basically don't really want to work anyway. I only want to take my ideal job of being a newspaper editor. Are you qualified to be a newspaper editor? Well, no, but I've read some. That was more or less a conversation I heard down the job centre once when I went to try and get job seekers.
Well, yeah, you do get delusional people, of course. I couldn't get a job as a scientist, and I'd been a scientist for more than a decade.
Are you a good scientist?
I thought so. Good at science, not very good at getting employed.
Did you engineer those mouse ears onto your own head? No, you just put a headband on and thought that was enough. It's not. You need to grow them yourself.
You got to live it. Live the dream.
I think we might have gone slightly off topic. So speaking of delusional people, back to Disney adults.
Back to Disney adults. Okay, well, I guess to summarize that then, it's unclear whether this generation has been pandered to and can't cope with the basic demands of adulting, or to complete the theory I was putting forward, that we've been in an economic meat grinder and we can't afford things like buying a house as easily as we could on average, or getting married or having kids. But you know what we can afford? We can afford a 600 quid Lego Millennium Falcon. That's not house money. That's like a normal amount of disposable money. You might save that over the course of 3 months. You're never going to save a house deposit out of that level of saving. If it's going to take you 30, 40 years to do, well, I can understand the appeal in being, fuck it, I'm going to have a cool toy instead, because I can actually do that.
But I think that an older generation, our parents' generation, let's say, even before then, would have seen that amount of money and been even more shrewd with it and said, well, I don't want to piss £600 away. That's going in a jar because it will be house money when it goes with the other £600 that I'm not going to buy on the next stupid thing. You know, you can, I don't know, house prices will vary from place to place, but the starting percentage that you need for a mortgage is 5%, especially with government assistance. So are you telling me that there's nowhere in the entire country that someone would be able to afford to scrape together 5% for a deposit on a house if that was their goal, rather than buying cool shit?
It's not just the deposits, it's the mortgage as well. And you can't...
That's what your job is for.
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't have been able to buy the house I live in if I hadn't had significant help from my parents for the deposit. Because on the mortgage alone, it wasn't going to scratch the surface. They wouldn't lend me enough money to get this house. And this is a very modest house. But I do live in an expensive area. So I guess in that argument, it's like, well, fuck you then. Get a job in a cheap area where you can get a cheap house. It's like, well, jobs tend to correlate with house pricing. So like, sure, there's some cheap shithole somewhere, but I might end up getting half the salary and then I'll be no better off. It's not so simple.
But you'd have a house if that's the standard by which we're measuring, are you a successful adult? Which it used to be, maybe.
I think it should be a reasonable expectation to be able to afford to buy some kind of house after some amount of work in the area that you have a job. I don't think that's crazy.
I think maybe we're touching on the question I had for Disney adults, which is this an indicator of societal rot and infanticization? But I'm still not entirely clear on why people hate Disney adults so much.
Why do I hate them?
I found a heavy-set white man with a white beard and guitar on his wall doing a YouTube short who, for his southern drawl, was trying to present quite a balanced argument in the very short YouTube clip that he had, and kind of see it from both sides. He seemed to think that it basically boiled down to opponents thinking that as a Disney adult, you're going to Disney parks and deliberately putting yourself in the situations of, things that children enjoy and buying childish things because you're a paedophile. That's somehow wrapped up in, that's the people that dislike Disney adults. They're kind of
too simple.
When you press them on the issue, it's like, oh, but it just feels weird, like you like kids or something. But it's really not. And his point, which I thought was quite clever in a sense, was that if that's the first thing you jump to about other people, you've got those thoughts in your mind already, and the problem is you've taken your internal thoughts and projected them on someone else.
I don't think that's a clever point at all. I think that's a know you reflex point that people always say when someone criticizes something for being dubious behavior.
But I wouldn't see a bunch of people wandering around Disney and think, oh, this is a field of diddlers.
if you saw a field of diddlers and said, I think those are diddlers, and one of them said, you thought they were diddlers, you must be a diddler yourself, sir. You wouldn't be like, that's a good point. I guess I'm a diddler. QED.
I think I got lost in the fact that you just said diddler about 600 times.
Yeah, maybe there's something in seeing darkness in something innocent being a reflection of the person seeing it, but not necessarily. I don't think it's not a crazy association to be like, okay, these adults like doing stuff that is aimed at kids, or is it that's traditionally aimed at kids? It's a kids area. They're doing lots of kid-related stuff. Why are they there hanging out with kids? They must be pedos. I can understand the connection. I think it's completely wrong in this instance, but I don't think that's a crazy leap to have gone for.
Yeah, maybe to give away the later points of Darkseid, but I actually couldn't find any connection between Disney adults and that.
And Disney pedophiles.
And that particular barrel of bad apples, yeah.
No, me neither. For me, so the woman that had the Disney-based Tinder profile gave me a sense of revulsion. And it's the same sort of flavour when I think about, okay, people that go to Disneyland and enjoy a bit of nostalgia, whatever, that's fine. Totally get that. Doesn't disgust me. It's the people that will only vacation there. They will spend thousands and thousands of dollars on Disney stuff, or tens of thousands that they sometimes don't have, and will have, emotional outbursts like crying when they quote meet Goofy or whoever. I mean, maybe these are extreme cases, but they're kind of iconic of the Disney adult. And the whole thing just, for me, it makes me really question their values. It makes me see them more like children. Be like, how can you be so emotional about an underpaid college grad, school leaver in a costume who's acting as a cartoon character? Like, you're not me. How is this so emotionally powerful for you? It makes me think that your grounding in reality is weak. It makes me think you don't want to face the reality of the real world. It makes me think your emotional center is clearly based or influenceable by something completely fictional. And, it just makes me think you're not a real adult. So it's not so much hate that I feel for these people. It's disgust. They seem pathetic to me.
Especially if you put it in the context of it's on Tinder where you're looking for people to date. You don't want to be dating someone who comes across as that completely immature and not realistic or realistically unstable.
Childish. Yeah. Immature. Immature is the right word. Yeah, especially on Tinder in like a very adult context. It's like, ma'am, I'm trying to smash here.
And what you're advertising is a whole other thing other than Disney adults.
Yeah, take off that mouse ears immediately.
So some of what you've just mentioned comes up in a couple of the YouTube videos, that a lot of the criticism and the revulsion and that I just don't understand why you're doing it, which is a fair point.
Why can't you be miserable and ground down by life like me?
It's more that devoting your life and identity to a corporation that does not give two squirts of shit about you, that you are
a false idol.
You are a wallet to them.
Yeah, well, they do care about you in as far as your wallet will stretch.
Yeah, as far as your bank balance goes. And this isn't accidental. Disney know exactly what they're doing, and they are catering to this market and increasingly have been.
Going back to your first definition, where whoever it was that said it, a dedication to the Disney Corporation was the first thing they listed off. Not the characters, not nostalgia, not the films, not the whatever, the corporation. I think, sorry to interrupt your point, but something about the idolization of a corporation or the worship of a corporation is really dystopian. That hits me in a very existential sort of ick.
Very Orwellian, yes?
Yes, something like that. Doesn't lead anywhere good. Then again, I kind of worship Logitech because they make really great peripherals and always have. So, I don't know.
Well, this was kind of going to be...
Sorry, please continue your point.
Part of my point in that no one finds it weird for adults to holiday at Thorpe Park or Alton Towers for a couple of days and keep going back to it, right? Because you like the rides in the theme park or something. It's just somehow the branding of Disney, because it is specifically the stories are painted as for children, and the early ones definitely more so. Although I think since the animation renaissance, let's say, of the 90s onwards, there's been a lot more jokes in there for adults, or, clever references that go over a kid's head, but they're there for adults to laugh at as well, because they're the ones that pay for things. They're the ones that take the kids to the cinema to watch them or whatever. So you have to kind of hook them as well. And this goes to the quote that I'm going to misquote from Disney because I didn't write it down, but he says something along the lines, if you only sold to kids, you'd be dead, or along those lines, because the adults have the money. You're dead if you only target kids or something like that. But he was a shrewd businessman when he was
Walt
coming
Disney.
up with these things. Yes. And they started making Disney-branded stuff that was marketed at adults since the 30s, when they did the first, Mickey Mouse watch hands that was marketed towards men, women, girls, and boys.
Walt Disney was definitely a visionary. I was looking into him. I've got a bit of history about him if you want to do that.
I do, because I think some of the stuff around this almost deliberate creation of the Disney adult will slot in later to the history, if you want to run through some of that for us.
So before the Disney Corporation existed, Walt Disney was an animator, not a particularly good one, but an animator nonetheless. His first animation business was called Laugh-O-Gram, and that was in the 1920s, I believe. It went bankrupt in 1923. Walt and his brother Roy founded the Disney Brothers cartoon studio in Hollywood. Walt was primarily the creative salesman and obsessive producer. Roy was the financially cautious operator who repeatedly prevented Walt's ambitions from destroying the company. So you've got Walt is the kind of wild, creative, risk-taking visionary, and Roy is the guy that's holding together the practicalities of actually making it work. Their first important character was Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, but Disney's distributor controlled the copyright and hired away much of Walt's staff. So the initial model of this company was to produce short cartoons, sell distribution rights, and license popular characters onto merchandise. So as you said, from the very beginning, they were blending, we've got films and characters and merch and coming into the real world, things that you can take home.
Yes, now buy our Joe plushie, complete with 24-hour erection.
Walt then decided to make the first American feature-length cel animated film called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Costs escalated, becoming well over $1 million. And in the 1937 that this was made, $1 million was a lot of money. However, it didn't ruin them with failure. It was a massive success. It was a gamble and they won. But Disney was not immediately secure. Pinocchio, Fantasia and Bambi were expensive, while the Second World War cut off much of the European market. The studio carried substantial debts and survived partly through cheaper package films, government work, and, hilariously, military propaganda. However, they persevered and produced many feature-length films. By the early 1950s, Disney had recovered through films such as Cinderella, live-action productions, and television. Walt recognized television not merely as a competitor to cinema, but as a means of financing and marketing Disneyland. Disneyland opened in California in 1955. Walt's dissatisfaction with existing amusement parks was genuine. He wanted a clean, controlled, narratively coherent place where parents and children could enjoy themselves together. So the television programs advertised the park, films supplied the characters, the park kept old films culturally relevant, and merchandise converted affection into money. And visitors formed memories that strengthened their attachment to the brand.
So straight away there, he's already realizing that, hey, we need the adults as well, because they're the ones that bring the kids here. And therefore, we need them to have a good time when they go to this park. Otherwise, they're not going to come back. They're not going to bring their kids.
Exactly. Something they can enjoy rather than endure. So it's always had adults in mind. And something that's amazing about the Disney Company is how many pies they have their fingers in. So not only do they produce film and TV and these characters and have theme parks, they also do cruises, they do weddings, they do entire live-in towns. Lots of stuff. It's not just like a media company. It's like it transcends that and goes into the real world and has new and creative ways of getting you involved in Disney. It's quite unusual from that point of view.
I think I can step in a bit here, and if there's bits I've missed from the history, you can patch it in for us. But the massive corporate giant that is Disney, and this hooking of adults as well, and expanding the business model to have greater and greater outlets to bring people into the parks, but also sell the merch, can kind of be traced back to the 80s, like the mid-80s, because as one YouTuber on Brainwash of Disney Adults did a video on, they reckon that basically they've been trying to engineer Disney adults for about 40 years, which is why we're getting to the stage we are with people that have got this such deeply ingrained connection with the company and more or less everything that it produces, or at least enough of it that they'll buy multiple things, multiple venues.
Because they got us when we were kids, and now they're selling our memories back to us.
Sort of. So by 84, the company, although they'd had a lot of success in their early cel-drawn films and they'd diversified, they'd survived the economic downturn after the war, the profits of the company were falling.
And Walt Disney had been dead for about 10 years now.
The quality of the animation had gone downhill by the 80s. The live action films were forgettable because they were still trying to keep this sort of polished and squeaky clean appearance of things, and they just weren't making the same money that they were. And the parks can't sustain the business long enough because it was still kind of primarily an attraction for kids, but as you say, something that the adults can get something out of, but it was kids that wanted to go there. And they got a new CEO in 84 in a guy called Eisner, who took over and immediately issued a memo saying that age decompression is key. So we need to grab adults as well. We need to stop only having our audience from young to up until about 12 and then losing them. So under him, the parks had already expanded. They had multiple sites, places like Epcot alongside the Magic Kingdom in Florida. Epcot started selling alcohol for the first time at multiple spots around the park in themed locations. So you had wine sold in the France part of the map. You had tequila sold in the Mexico side of the park.
Oh, I get it, because tequila's Mexican.
Well, pretty good.
God, the things theme parks come up with, it's unbelievable.
They then opened up Pleasure Island in California, which was an evening venue, or a series of evening venues, which were primarily aimed at adults. So they had like nightclubs, they had live music, they had bars constantly, down either side of it, and they had even a fake countdown to midnight every night to make that sort of New Year's Eve party vibe.
Was real midnight too late for them?
No, it was just like making everything like New Year's Eve, but they would count down to midnight. Yeah.
Real midnight, fake New Year's Eve.
Yes, sorry, I probably didn't phrase that properly.
It wasn't really a very important point. I've just zeroed in on it for little reason.
Good. To diversify their entertainment portfolio, they expanded the likes of some of their smaller picture venues like Touchstone, and they made not more risque films, but the things that weren't really on Disney brand or Disney theme. So it would be like rom-coms, just types of like a lot of Tom Hanks vessels in the in the 80s that wouldn't necessarily have been a Disney theming, but they got to then reap the benefits of those while keeping the castle and the mouse as clean as possible.
And something about this era, this is the era I think of as classic Disney, but it's not. This is the second age of Disney.
This is kind of the attempt to pivot the business, which doesn't really work as well, but it lays the groundwork for, as I said, this kind of animation renaissance.
But this is the era of mega hit after mega hit, right?
Well, he was in charge up until 2004, and so they did manage to churn out some massive hits on the Disney side of things with some of that diversified revenue. So he got some things right, but
it's like Lion King, Jungle Book, Pocahontas, Mulan.
Jungle Book's way earlier, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, the ones from our childhood, right?
Mm-hmm. Hunchback of Notre Dame was a big one.
The majority of them came from this time. They were still good.
They had bought some other properties, like the Winnie the Pooh characters came under Disney around about this time as well, which were originally nice stories written by a slightly suspect man who also had a mustache. A.A. Milne wrote them. They weren't Disney creations. But as I said, it wasn't as successful for them as what happened later. And Eisner stepped down in 2004. In fact, he had basically lost the confidence of the shareholders, and he was voted out of his position by something like 42% of the vote had no faith in what he was doing, which is massive in corporate America, seemingly.
Interesting, because the company was making money and making good films, right?
It was, but it hadn't turned around. Like, the amount that they were spending hadn't reached they weren't drawing in what they were expecting to for the costs that they were incurring from this diversification.
It wasn't protecting shareholder value sufficiently well.
His pivot to try and capture adults was kind of what they needed to do, but not in the right way, in that he tried to bolt adult stuff onto the side of Disney. Whereas the guy that came after him, who was
the infamous Bob Iger.
Robert or Bob Iger, yeah, who's only this year been succeeded in the role. But it was 2004 he took over, I think. And that's when they start to really get into this idea of let's grab them young, own their childhoods, and carry that through into adulthood. So he starts buying up a whole bunch of intellectual property. So Pixar had been producing some of the stuff for them, like your Toy Stories and A Bug's Life and some of the big hits that towards the later part of the 90s. But they didn't own Pixar at that point. They were just an animation studio that they worked with. And things were like, this is a Pixar movie.
Up to that point, being a Pixar movie was a cast iron guarantee it was going to be excellent.
Yeah, they make bank, Pixar movies.
And they should. They're genuinely excellent.
But when you think about it, they also mix in themes that are a bit of an emotional gut punch for adults as well, because the kids can enjoy the characters and the stories, but then nostalgia of, moving on from your childhood and loss and growing up are running through Pixar films as well, which hook an adult into those feelings, get you in the feels. Is that a common term?
It is. A lot of Disney seems to, I haven't really figured out why, but Disney is kind of about childhood. It's integrated into the company, into the brand, in a way that you don't see with other similar companies. What is it about childhood that they keep coming back to? Some sort of sense of magic and sense of childhood, which they package up in various ways.
Well, you've got clean heroes and villains. You've got things working out in your happily ever after. You've got
moral simplicity,
easy to follow narratives with strong moral messages. And even if you look at the earlier stuff, there's a lot of religious, not symbolism, but also like a leaning towards religion, where you've got Snow White praying for the dwarves at some point. There's a couple of other examples, but they weave it in as well. So it feels wholesome. It's not like the church are going to go for them, which is often the case. And that's a good way to alienate part of the population, have the church against you.
Probably means you're doing something right.
After they buy Pixar, they acquire Marvel later, they acquire Star Wars, and it snowballs from there. So by buying sets of characters, you're grabbing people who are adults now and producing more content from stuff that they remember even before it was owned by Disney. So Spider-Man comics and stuff have been around since the 60s earlier.
Star Wars since the 70s.
Mm-hmm. And while you were able to get their nostalgia from, I don't know, reissuing the films every now and then, or producing the prequels and sequels.
I remember seeing A New Hope at the cinema when I was about 8. It was the fucking tits.
But that would have been another re-release and stuff, because that came out in 77.
Yeah, it was a re-release in like 1996.
97. They did the 20-year special cuts. But because Disney now own these characters, they can incorporate them into the parks. They can produce more TV shows. They can produce more merchandise, and you get new generations in. But you've bought the childhood of those older generations that you wanted the money for. And then the parks start selling more and more alcohol. Not like, hey, we have to get these guys completely tanked as they walk around, but you can't. Like every food venue, more or less in the park, you'd be able to get a beer.
It's a crazy world, Andy, where you can get a beer at Disney World, but you can't get it at a football game.
You can see why I went, right?
That's nuts. Just think about that. That's insane.
So they've got two ways of getting you here. They can create the original characters. They can start making the memories for the people that are going to experience it for the first time. But they've also got all the old stuff for the people who can bankroll it that they want to play off of as well.
I'm reminded of a J.R.R. Tolkien misquote that evil cannot create, it can only corrupt that which has been created by good. That's Bob Iger. They've not created shit. They've just corrupted existing things that were good. I really, really hate what they've done with Star Wars.
My love of Star Wars is a private thing. So when you talk about Disney fans and fanatics and the ones that cry at Disney World and are so over the top they make the rest of us look bad, if you ever had a passing appreciation for Aladdin, I think that Star Wars fans are as bad as that, or not, if not worse.
No, really?
And always have been. Star Wars fans that will corner you and once they hear that you like Star Wars, they just want to fucking bore the tits off you with their fan theories and have you read this book and did you play that game? And that was before Disney bought them. They're a fucking dull bunch. So my appreciation for it is something that I just keep to myself, and I like the bits that I like and I don't need to discuss it with anyone.
That's fair enough. Discuss it with me. Do you like the 789?
This is not the place.
It is the place, because...
No, the Disneyfication of Star Wars is one of the worst things that I've seen happen to my childhood memories.
I agree with you.
Don't get me started on the character of Ahsoka. That's a whole other side quest.
Let's not even do that.
Yeah.
But I think this is important, because whilst they've bought the rights to your childhood memories, they've also pissed in the face of most of that nostalgia as well. Most people I know that like Star Wars are completely over it now. Like, that Star Wars, as far as they're concerned, ended with Rogue One, and there are not any other. The original trilogy, the prequels, Rogue One, that's it. That's the 7 films which are considered canon, and they do not care about the endless tripe that's trotted out now. And even I think some things like Andor are meant to be quite good, but it's too little too late.
Fucking boring.
Is it? Okay. I watched a bit of The Mandalorian, and I think people only said it was good because it was better than the other crap they were producing. It still wasn't good TV. Anyway, the point I'm making here is they are, in their goal to have a conveyor belt from childhood to adulthood and recapture the current adults via their childhood, they are also killing the golden goose here by forgetting that the reason we loved these things, not just because we watched them when we were kids, but they were good things when we watched them. They had quality, they had enduring themes, they had artistic coherence about them, and they've completely thrown the baby out with the bathwater. And Mr. Shareholder Value is, you might not see it now, but in time, I think this nostalgia engine that Disney has thrived, they have probably killed it.
I don't know. I think that if you want to look at Star Wars in particular, George Lucas has always been a massive money whore for his stuff. And as soon as the films came out, they were making terrible, trashy products. Good products as well, but terrible, trashy ones. Star Wars holiday specials that were on TV in the 70s.
No, that's true.
Were dreadful. The Ewoks animated thing that came off the back of it, abysmal.
And history has forgotten a lot of these things and allowed them to recede into the mire where they belong.
They made a load of tap, but I think what Disney are doing is playing the long con with this as well, because the older fans that will still consume the media to then say that it's crap, but the younger fans that haven't got the whole history of it will start at that level. So then the next thing is then, they carry it through, and the older ones are going to fall by the wayside eventually, but they'll still consume some of it because there's still just enough of the old stuff being trickled out that they'll capture some of those precious dollar bills.
I don't think kids watching new Star Wars now are going to grow up with the same cultural reverence for it that we did when we watched good Star Wars.
Hard to say. Only time will tell. I mean, it all just falls back on Hero with 1,000 Faces anyway, so.
What's that?
That's that original Japanese Ido hero's arc kind of archetype that Lucas...
Oh, right. Yeah. The hero's journey.
Yeah. Epitomous kind of book called Hero with 1,000 Faces that Lucas stole a lot of stuff from.
Hey, it worked.
When making his Space Wizard samurais.
Yeah, interesting.
Anyway, Disney Animals.
Well, enshittification has come for a lot of these Disney IPs. I think enshittification has come for the Disney parks as well. They've increased in ticket costs by 40% just since COVID. And they keep taking away things that used to be included in the entry. And it now all happens through an app, so they can make sure that they get all this data. And more stuff is paid extras. And they make a lot of money by selling queue jumps and things like that for $20 to ride this thing or whatever. And they're incentivized to make sure there are queues for rides at all times. And they carefully manage the park and the staffing and the throughput of the rides to make sure there are queues in the place and people are having a shit time and they're motivated to spend money to skip it.
Well, I can give you a little bit of first-hand information around that because we didn't buy any of the extra fast passes because it just looked like you were there for paying to go in a queue that was slightly shorter. And the clever bit that they do in the park is, as I said, all of the set dressing. So while it says you're going to wait for 40 minutes to go on this ride, and I can talk about the enshittification of that in a second as well, the whole way round the queue is, or if we talk about Galaxy's Edge, let's say the Star Wars one, everything is on theme, on brand. You're going through a cave, there's lockers of bits of props and armor and weapons to look at, and you feel like you're being immersed in the experience all the way through. So it wasn't really a bad experience even going through the queuing system. And that's where it beats some of the other theme parks where you are just literally in a hut and it's hot and you move forward at a snail's pace. It didn't seem to slow down. Everything kept moving, but you were also kept busy as you were going. And part of what's the second level of what's clever about that is that people don't come out of it going, oh, I'm bored, or the queuing was awful. But all of its potential merch, right? So when the ride's over and you're funneled through the gift shop per ride, you'd be like, oh, I was staring at that helmet for 20 minutes. Now I kind of want to go and buy a helmet. So I think that's an element of that as well.
Yeah, that's clever.
But the rides themselves have, I think, gotten shittier. Loads of them rely on videotech and simulations where you're being jolted around, but you're not actually, it's not roller coasters.
Not actually going anywhere.
Yeah. And those actually made me feel way more queasy.
Because they're probably a fraction of the price.
Like, we went on a bunch of stuff at SeaWorld, which has tons of roller coasters, surprisingly, and, endangered whales and shit.
Abused orcas.
But I was there to ride roller coasters, baby. And I got on way more stuff that was like a physical ride that was fun to go on, as opposed to 3 simulators that actually made me feel like I was going to be sick.
Is that all you managed on your day? You had a big debut?
No, we managed most things in the park in that day, bar the food and overpriced snacks.
I mean, there's numerous videos of people, just a couple who stay at a Disney hotel, go there for a day and spend $1,000 quite easily overall, which is a lot of money. The crazy thing is that Disney keep raising the prices, but people keep paying it.
Yep.
And it's going to keep going up and up and up and up. And it's, for a lot of people, back in the day, I don't think Disney was ever cheap, but it was certainly affordable. You could take your family there. And now it's just getting crazy and people are taking on debt to do it. And it's not affordable in the same sense it used to be. But prices are going to keep going up and Disney's making billions in profit.
You alluded to one of possibly the saddest parts of that, and it is it's the big ticket item for how to blow your money at Disney. He said like the houses, which is correct. There's an estate that's on Disneyland inside the park boundaries, not in the park itself. I'm pretty sure you still have to buy your entrance tickets, but you can buy a house inside of Disney's park in an exclusive development called Golden Oak.
And the cheapest one's like what, 800,000 or something?
3 million.
Okay.
The houses start from 3
Who's
million
buying that?
up to $25 million.
And I think, aren't they almost all sold out as well?
Yeah, there's limited availability.
Crazy shit. There's like multi-millionaires buying this stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty obscene. We should probably move on to some of the dark side of this if we haven't already covered it. Because I think we're touching on it with this devoting your life and your identity to a corporation and also the massive financial toll. As we've said, Disney know exactly what they're doing. They've engineered their content, the films and stuff they put out, to create characters, to create merch. They've been doing it since the 30s, and the price tags on those go from that's a bit of money for a keyring to that's far too much money for a gold-studded, diamond-studded tiara for my wedding in mouse ears, which is a real product, by the way. Vera Wang creates it.
Oh, for fuck's sake. That doesn't make it better.
No.
It makes it more dystopian.
Yep.
A Vera Wang created Minnie Mouse tiara.
Minnie Mouse at your headset with the ears,
Dude.
with diamonds in it, which holds the veil for your wedding dress.
Well, which guy? It must be a Disney guy marrying that. That's disturbing. Yeah, the financial side and the cynical enshittification of the park experience, and I'd say the less cynical, but nonetheless the enshittification of the various Disney IPs. I think they're obviously serving different priorities now than what they used to do. I don't think that's a dark side, but people are getting less and less for their money, but they're still paying it. Which I guess begs the question, why? Why would you pay thousands or tens of thousands on this stuff?
It is triggering nostalgia, I think, for people, but nostalgia isn't necessarily a happy feeling. Or it wasn't originally as the word started, right? It was coined by the Swiss Army, then the feeling of, morose
RJ nostalgia,
homesickness that their soldiers were experiencing in fighting wars. And it's a longing for something that you want, but you can never really go back to in the same way.
Is it paying to rent back your childhood because modern life is so unbearable?
We would have to have a proper Disney adult to ask that question.
I wonder if it's that. I mean, to be honest, I haven't really got to the bottom of real core reason why people want to do it. That's the best I've come up with, is it's a temporary release from pain of modern life, which is, as an adult, there's endless bills to pay, there's endless forms to fill out. You've got to cook, clean, acquire food, go to work. There's a million things. There's companies, and your little rectangle of doom is clamoring for your attention at all times. There's an endless doom-scrolling news cycle of tragedy worldwide, and we're completely cognitively overloaded. I do see the appeal in being like, fuck all that. I'm going to a place where there's black and white morality and everyone's friendly and the world's been simplified, and it's just a bit of a relief to retreat to that place of childhood where you had no adult concerns because your parents did everything for you. I kind of get that. I don't think being a Disney adult is necessarily an indication of a failure to be a real adult in real life. I think it just indicates, maybe it is as well. We don't have the data to tell, but I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with indulging with that as long as you can afford it.
This is kind of the everything in moderation argument, because paying for something that's slightly overpriced to trigger a bit of childhood nostalgia because it makes you feel good for a short amount of time, there's a definite cost value calculation that you should be doing to say what's sensible and what's not, what can you actually afford. But the absolute mania of these ones that are on social media. And that's just, social media is not real life. These people do exist, but they're not the majority, let's say. But there are people putting themselves into debt. There was someone who spent $37,000 for her week trip to Disney. Yeah. So
think of what you could do with that money.
When you take it to this ridiculous extreme. So let's say that house deposits at 10% for a mortgage. If you've got $37,000 to spend in Disney, you can afford a house that costs you $370,000.
Yeah. Is that the best use of money?
Exactly. So while it's not necessarily the best way to boil everything down to what else can I get for this instead, there's a point where your nostalgia trip is too much for a cognitively reasonable person. So devoting your life and this massive financial toll, the company's never going to thank you for it, really. They'll say thank you and you're special and you're a real star, but they're only interested in you as long as you can pay for it.
Inside these Disney communities, when they operate and they communicate on Reddit, there's apparently a status hierarchy of who's a real fan, who's had their annual pass the longest, who goes on the most visits and the most trips, and basically who suckles at the teat of Minnie Mouse most vigorously.
Gross.
And that's a dark side as well. But I think a lot of subcultures, when you get the people together who are involved in it, a lot of it is not really about the subculture anymore. It's about a henpecking order and status game. So I don't think that's unique to this, but it's a stupid pursuit, an utter waste of mental resources to engage in that with other chumps.
Just to dispel the myths and the rumors and the assumptions that we, as we said earlier, we really can't find any connection to this being like Disney adults are pedophiles. We're not seeing them going to the park because they want to be around kids and molest kids or take pictures of kids. I can't find anything that suggests that the Disney fan base has that kind of problematic element.
No, me neither. I did read one story in a YouTube comment of a guy that was saved from a pedo by Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse, pedo fighter.
They're cautious about it, deliberately so.
I bet they have training on it.
Because they want the park itself to be a place where people feel safe and magic is real, good wins over evil, all that kind of stuff that we've mentioned is the morality of a Disney film, is what the environment they want in the park.
Pedophiles get thwarted.
So as an adult, you are not allowed to come to the park in full costume, specifically for that reason that you might have kids coming up to you wanting to...
Oh, so you can't blend in.
So yeah, you can't have, your full fursuit of Sully from Monsters, Inc. in a Disney park.
Whilst we're saying that Disney adults don't have a link to being pedophiles, I bet absolutely there are pedophiles that operate at Disney World.
Unfortunately, it's documented and there's been several sting operations done by the Florida law enforcement because pedophiles, despite the rigorous screening standards of the company, they're making their way into the staff more than they are into the things. So there was if we look back at 2014, CNN, whatever you think of that as a news outlet, but they did a 6-month investigation and found at least 35 Disney employees had been arrested for sex crimes against children, attempting to meet minors for sex and possession of child pornography over the preceding 8 years. So there's a few high-profile cases where it's been the workers there that have been the problem rather than the visitors, which is, of course, not a great look for the company.
To me, going to Disneyland sounds pretty hellish, but working there as a, quote, cast member in a costume in the sweltering Florida swamp heat, that sounds 10 times worse. These people are insane for wanting to do this.
Yeah, there's very strict training, there's very strict rules. You can't break character at any time.
Ever.
No one can see you outside of costume. There's upstage and downstage, something like that.
On stage and offstage. Offstage and on stage and backstage.
Yeah. So when you go, if you're moving between areas as a cast member, you have to use all the secret tunnels. You can't have Goofy wandering across to Star Wars Land, for example, because that breaks the immersion.
He doesn't belong here. So they've got to go through these rat tunnels.
Yep. And one of the, I guess it's...
basement dwelling subhumans.
It's not necessarily a dark side. Well, maybe it kind of is, but there's one slightly horrifying statistic I found in that they have a genuine set of trainings and problems and things about people scattering their ashes at Disneyland parks.
Oh, yeah. They let them go at the top of rides and cover everyone in.
Or just dump them in fountains, or like, it's what grandma wanted.
Oh yeah, and they get swept out and put in the trash.
But apparently that is the most popular place in the US for people to have their ashes scattered.
What an insult to the dead.
So much so that the staff have to have specific training on what to do when people are scattering ashes there. They've got specific hoovers that are used for picking up human remains.
Fucking hell.
They say that comes out about at least once a month, and they have special code names for when this is discovered.
What's the code for human remains?
I think it's literally just grandma.
Code grandma.
Got a code grandma over in Galaxy's Edge.
There's a code V, vomit. Code Baloo for blood. Apparently people shit themselves quite regularly, or like not shit themselves, just defecate somewhere. There's toilets everywhere, but for whatever reason, there's usually piss and shit to be found in long queues, for instance. Just people dropping trow in the middle of it.
That's because they're fucking horrendously obese Floridians on mobility scooters, and they cannot get to toilets, even though they're battery powered.
These swamp dwellers. Plus, obviously, devilishly handsome people like you and your brother.
Listen, in 35 plus heat and massive humidity, there was nothing devilishly handsome about me.
You gingers didn't look good, I guess.
As soon as I stepped outside the hotel, I had a gooch swamp going.
A pasty sunburnt gooch swamp.
My gooch was not sunburnt, thank you. That's a tanning exercise I wouldn't want anyone to...
Wouldn't wish on anyone.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Dark side wise, it's more sad as a subculture than it is dark, but
I wonder if there's not enough engaging stuff going on in these people's lives that they want to spend their money and their time on engaging with, I don't know, the real world, something that doesn't sell itself as a deliberate escape from the real world. There's nothing wrong with escapism, but do you know what I mean? Like, for the money people spend on Disney vacations, you could go have a safari, or you could, I don't know, but a safari I feel would be a more meaningful and richer experience than simply seeing Goofy. I don't know. I'm not particularly keen on a safari. Something like that. You could go on for many people, what would be a once-in-a-lifetime holiday. You could go almost any country in the world that you wanted to see.
Yeah, it's true. The astronomical cost of the stuff that people are literally pissing their money away on, the weddings that you can have in front of various Disney monuments inside the park are horrifically expensive.
Yeah, it's just sad that these illusions seem to be more important to people than the real world. But I guess we should probably move things along.
We maybe should.
Is it sexual? Ha ha.
Ha ha. Oh my, is it sexual?
Doesn't seem to be. I think there's like a little bit of furry crossover. And, additional dark side, quite often the cast members get groped by customers.
Me. So, no, what?
Maybe people that are furry bent, or just, there's one guy that wanted a picture with Minnie Mouse's underwear. And I don't know. Jesus Christ, I don't know. But basically, I don't think this is a particularly sexually motivated subculture.
I can't say I came across anything to say that Disney adults themselves are sexualizing the various franchises, or that they are sexually motivated. And if you look at the average weight of them, I guess they probably haven't seen their sexual organs in quite some time anyway. So that's part of it, maybe.
I just got to mash them together using a couple of forklifts.
They are heavy-set ladies for the most part. But there are rougher parts, like naughty Easter eggs in some Disney films.
Oh, yeah.
So apparently in the wedding scene in The Little Mermaid, which is one of the way back when classics, the little priest that's marrying the prince to the villain has got a chob on. You can see his little erection if you stop it at the right place.
Amazing.
Although someone tried to say that, no, that's just his knee. The video cover for The Little Mermaid, the castle in the background looks like it's made up of cocks, if you look at it in the right way, apparently. The Lion King.
I think, going back to your earlier point, this might say more about the viewer than it does about the subtext.
You see what you want to see. There's when one of the lions lies down on a rock in The Lion King, you can see a bunch of stars, which apparently spell out the word sex.
Naughty.
Although the animators have said that was supposed to be SFX because they were using a lot of new tech at the time. People read it as sex. However, there is in The Rescuers, which is one of the older vehicles as well. That's pre-90s. I want to say that's an 80s one. There's a point where they're flying past some, human windows. They're little mouses. They're on the back of a bird, and they're flying past some windows, and there's a literal naked lady in one of the windows for a split second if you pause it in the right place. So there's some
Nice. Gonna look that up.
some things in actual Disney films, and I'm sure there are people whose kink is Disney cosplay or porn or something horrific like that.
That's got to be true.
These are all disconnected. These aren't Disney adults. The Disney adults that are spending these huge amounts of money and are going to the parks, they seem to be intrinsically tied to actual childishness and are distinctly not linked to paedophilia or sex acts or anything sexual around the definition that we give ourselves to start with. Disney adults, not sexual, I would say.
I agree.
Although I'll give you that Mouse Mingle, which is the Disney themed dating app, is pretty fucking sad.
Mouse Mingle.
But it should be noted that is not an officially licensed Disney property. That is purely fan service.
Oh, really?
Mouse Mingle! Ha-ha!
I imagine they're going to get sued any second. So, opinion after research, and would you be into this?
I mean, as I said to start with, I grew up on Disney, so it does have some element of nostalgia for me, but I can take it or leave it. It's not something I feel like I need to tag my identity to. So I'm kind of on the side of people, they should be allowed to enjoy a bit of that, even if it means buying in part to a big corporation. You know, we can't all like only small independent produced films that have a deeper meaning or whatever, but it really shouldn't be your identity or become an obsession. You know, any obsession's a bad thing, I think. If we look at Disney adults themselves, though, apart from themselves, who are they really hurting by this?
Not Bob Iger, that's for sure.
No. And the Disney company have certainly made it possible for these frankly stupid people to blow all of their money there more successfully than any theme park or franchise or company ever has done in history. You know, Disney are the epitome of capitalism. They are hyper consumerism machines, from the overpriced entrance fees and the merch costing what it does, even just to have a trinket as something to remember your time there. So when you go through some of the more corporate angled dark sides of and truth behind type videos, it's pretty fucking bleak. So are some of the stats that we've come up with.
I think Disney is more morally reprehensible here than the Disney adults are. They're not very wise, perhaps, but Disney is very clever and very dedicated to what it does. Mostly very clever.
So if we assume that some of this semi-conspiracy theory stuff is true, and the executives basically deliberately wanted to trap people's minds in a childlike state of nostalgia in order to keep milking their wallets, that's pretty grim. So I would be against that as a principle. But again, if we're talking about capitalism in a free market, all they've done is just be the most successful capitalist they can be.
And I think I find something inherently chilling about that.
So you're not willing to sell us out and start producing the Sub-Subculture theme park and Sub-Subculture merch? And
Never! We'll never make money from this podcast. Ask me again if I'm willing to sell out once we actually have an opportunity to.
Yeah, once someone's got the papers waved in front of you.
As we said a long time ago, it's only a value if it costs you something to uphold it. So I can talk any kind of game now, but I'd never sell this podcast out, not even for £1 million. Well, no one's offering you that, mate.
Yeah.
So,
what about 3 and you can have the house in the Disney park?
oh, all right, done.
So I guess that's where I've landed. It's not really it's neither here nor their opinion. People shouldn't go so far into it, but it's their own lives they're ruining. But would I be into this? In the extreme, no. Will I still say that Disney content itself is good and can be wholesome and for kids? Yes.
Very well reasoned. My opinion after research, I've got slightly more understanding and slightly less derision for the Disney adult, but I still treat it with a lot of suspicion, and I would think less of someone I knew in real life whose primary personality trait was a Disney fan. Like you, Andrew.
Anyway, we're talking about sitting here in my first order t-shirt with a Star Wars tattoo on my forearm. These are facts. These are literal facts.
At least the tattoo is from pre-Disney era. Would I be into this? No. I am all for enjoying a fandom or intellectual property if you want to be corporate dystopian about it. But yeah, agree with you that it shouldn't become your identity, etc. This is the fandoms that I enjoy. I'm happy to enjoy fairly privately and to a moderate degree. I've got a Pacific Rim t-shirt, for instance. That's about as far as it goes for me. So no, I wouldn't be into this, and I wish moderation upon people who are into it.
I will counter your point of less derision. I think I've actually got more derision for these people since having done the research, since I didn't really know it was a thing before, but I would definitely mock a Disney. I thought there was fat people and there were people that bought too much merch around the park, but I didn't know that was their life.
Yeah. In a broader sense, I worry we've created a society where there isn't much, where the deeper meaning is more difficult to find, and it encourages people to retreat into simulated environments such as Disney or video games, etc. But that's a discussion for another time, I think.
It's a little bit sad to think that we may have become so jaded that on the outset, first looking at this, we can't comprehend or believe someone's nostalgia trip is innocent, and we have to give them a label of a Disney adult and then
or a mental
take the piss
illness
out of them. Yeah. But when you find out that people take it to such an extreme, as I said, it's hard not to tar everyone with the same brush. Well, if you've listened this far and haven't been put off by ruining, or haven't been put on to ruining your life by Disney, you can come and have your life ruined by us instead, by engaging with us more heavily. Get more indoctrinated into the Subculture Podcast.
Don't publish that.
You can come and join our subculture instead on all the social platforms that we definitely use all of the time. You can find us on X at Sub-Subcult You can find us on Instagram at Sub-Subculture Podcast, and our Reddit page, our Sub-Subculture Podcast.
You can come to my Sub-Subcult theme house. It's themed like a normal guy that lives here.
Normal's probably a stretch.
It's themed like a guy lives here.
Come and leave us comments. In fact, if you've listened this far into the episode and want to engage with us on social media, leave us an Instagram or Reddit comment, and I will create an image of us as Disney characters at your request. How about that? Joe will love it.
Don't do that.
I will.
If you've made it this far, smash that subscribe button in case you haven't.
Actually, what you can do us a cheeky little favor. You can give us a like or a subscribe on Spotify. That's where we are lacking in growth. Come and help us grow with us, grow our chub. No, just our audience.
Excellent.
Unfortunately, from Disney adults, we are moving into OnlyFans next time. And I really don't want to find any crossover between them. There will be.
I might have to Google that. I'll get myself put on another list.
This is a vomit-inducing episode for you.
This has been a rough one.
So, Disney adults are out the way. We've made sure that they're not sexual, but the OnlyFans portion next time, I'm scared already.
I can't wait. It'd be great.
I hope I can find out that it's only about cooling devices for your house.
I actually think there is a website
that does that.
It's called OnlyFans that sells fans. I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to start my rival company, Exclusively Ventilation. Cool. I think that's it from us.
Let's wrap this up.
Think for yourself.
But obey my dog.